Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.
Well,
Okay, nice. So it's a photo of, I'm assuming it's a selfie, and you're holding up, you're holding up a nacho chip. So you're in a restaurant.
yes.
You're in a restaurant.
Okay.
You have some very nice glasses,
Yeah.
like good fashion choice.
Thanks. Thanks.
You're wearing a kind of a mustard sweater. You got a nice scarf, very fashionable.
Thank you.
You got some earphones, and you're in a mall. It seems like you're in a restaurant that's in part of a shopping center.
Close. Yeah, close.
2 golden rings on your pinky and on the neck.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
Ring finger. Yeah.
Your expression is kind of neutral. It's like you're making a selfie. So,
Yeah.
talk us through this photo. Why this, and what's going on?
Well, you said to put like more recent photos or whatever, and I'm really terribly not photogenic. So this is like the really only decent photo that I could kind of find in the last, I don't know, few years possibly. But I'm in an airport actually in Houston on my way to like a ladies' weekend or girls' weekend in Austin to celebrate my friend's 40th birthday.
Nice.
So she's turning 40. So, and I'm actually from Texas.
Okay.
So I grew up in Houston. I visited Austin a lot growing up. And so I'm holding a chip with queso, which to me, queso is like the number one best substance in the world. Like if I was somewhere in, desert island, what's the one food you might choose? It probably would be, toss up between queso and chocolate.
Okay.
So queso is chili and queso. It's a cheese sauce. So I'm basically just taking a quick photo of me. Like, yes, I'm eating my very favorite, like Houston style drippy queso, and I sent it to my partner at the time. Cause he's like, send me a pic whenever you're finally eating that queso that you talk about all the time.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's what that was. And that, it is actually an airport. So it's not like any specific special place, but the queso piece is like the quintessential part of that picture.
Right. So. Well, it's comfort food. It's
yes. Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, so I think it's fantastic. Okay, so this is a kind of a getaway weekend. For me, I know that I reached out to you because something captured my attention. And in curating your photos for this conversation, you're framing a story that you want to tell. And that story says, okay, well, I'm going to start with a self-portrait.
Yeah, I didn't mean to do that. Like I sent them the order that I thought they went in had like my book cover first, because I think that's why you reached out to me as the book. So I'm not sure how they landed in the email. So I just kind of threw that in there for a fourth photo.
Got it.
But
Okay, so you're an author. And
yes.
Just quickly name the title of the book so people can have it burned into their head. We're going to say it multiple times so people will know.
Yeah, so it's called EMDR Therapy and Sexual Health, a Clinician's Guide. So this is a book meant for professionals. It's meant for EMDR clinicians. So that's psychotherapists who already know how to do EMDR therapy. Yeah. And then it's bringing in a sexual health piece to it, which has been missing for like the 30 plus years that EMDR has been around.
Stephanie!
Which EMDR... Yeah, go ahead.
That's it. That's why I reached out.
Yeah. Yes. That's exactly why. Yeah.
Okay, so for the listener, what is EMDR?
Okay, so EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing. So that's a type of therapy that was discovered about 32 years ago at this point by Francine Shapiro. So she was a research psychologist, actually, who was already researching, different things and, had a lot of curiosity. But what happened is there's this famous walk in the park where she was going for a walk in a park and had been upset about something. So she was sort of ruminating and was upset. And then she noticed after, 20 minutes or so, sometime, she felt a lot better. And she was trying to figure out why. Was it because I was walking in the park? I was breathing fresh air? It turns out she had been watching, I think it was maybe a dog or a ball, I don't know, something going back and forth. So she noticed that her eyes had been moving horizontally back and forth. And so she was like, okay, that's interesting. And then she kind of connected that to REM sleep. So in our REM sleep, which is our dream sleep, if you were to have somebody look at your eyes, while they're closed, they could see the eyeballs going back and forth horizontally. So that's part of what our mind body is trying to do when we're in dream sleep is trying to help us process, whatever happened during the day or whatever's going on in the last few weeks or whatever's on our mind. So it's kind of a wonderful kind of clearinghouse moment that our brain is doing in these, kind of dream sleep times throughout the night. So she was like, okay, that's interesting. So she started researching with her colleagues, having them think of something annoying or disturbing and then waving her fingers in front of their eyes back and forth horizontally. And she did discover, wow, people are feeling better when I do this. So obviously, as a research psychologist, she went on to really more formally research it and looked into different ways of, eye movements and speed and other things you need to do. And eventually, after, I think 2 to 3 years, developed EMDR therapy, which is an 8-phase sort of protocol that we use with clients, particularly clients who come to our offices saying things like, I had this really bad thing happen to me, this really traumatic experience happened to me and I can't seem to get over it. I can't seem to move on. I'm having a lot of nightmares still. I'm having a lot of interfering thoughts, or I just, I'm always avoiding, where that situation happened. Like I can't go anywhere near it, or I'm avoiding that person or whatever. So basically presenting with PTSD symptoms. So it can also be more generalized anxiety or phobia, or even sometimes people with some depression can also benefit from EMDR therapy because often their mind is stuck in some place in the past and is having a hard time moving on. So we basically go through this sort of 8-phase protocol. It doesn't mean 8 sessions or anything like that. It just means, we're kind of going in a certain order, which starts with like a regular intake, information gathering. And then the way I do it is I then help them develop some, EMDR skills, we call it. So developing some imagery skills and things like that. And then I sort of get a list of their worst, the top worst stuff that's happened to them. And then from there, we're going to go through each kind of event, as a single event, basically helping them come up with, what do they remember about it? What's a negative thought about themselves that goes along with it? Like I'm not worthy, or I'm not safe, or I'm a bad person, or whatever. What would be a better positive thought they'd rather have? So maybe something like, I'm fine as I am, or I'm safe now, or I am worthy. And then we kind of run, with eye movements, different sets of eye movements, usually around 30 seconds or so, sometimes a little longer, a little shorter. We kind of have them see what comes up for them. Right. So whatever's coming up for them is fine. And we just say, keep going, go with that, until basically at some point their mind body is like, I don't know, I feel calm.
That's
nothing
great.
Much is coming up. Yeah. So that's a long explanation. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. I had Monica. Okay. So one of the good things about the podcast format is we're just talking. It's just me and you.
Yeah.
And you as a professional are a talker. And so it's, for me, this is like the best kind of candy because, first of all, I had a guest, Monica Borschel, who was a clinical psychologist here in Hong Kong, and she moved to California, and we ended up crossing paths. We didn't meet when she was in Hong Kong, and she talked to me about EMDR therapy. So that's and so she talks about how she just discovered it or kind of started using it, and the insights. And so in terms, I'll tell you now, like, you're explaining this to me, and it is new. It is fascinating. And the connection, okay, I'm going to say it now, EMDR therapy and sexual health, a clinician's guide. So
yes,
in my previous life, I did, I was a medical editor for Elsevier. And so I have part of that in my background.
That's great.
And the whole thing of sexual health to me is so crucial. And so I had another kind of funny convergence is another therapist, a sexual therapist here in Hong Kong that I had on the podcast, who also ended up moving to California. Go figure. And she was my first sex therapist on the podcast. Yeah. And here we are. So Stephanie, this is you are exactly the person I needed to talk to. So thank you so much.
Oh, great. I'm happy to hear that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And as we're talking, I have your photo of you in the airport about to crunch into, and I love making connections. You know, like my questions are usually like, so there's the book, and then there's you holding this chip with this queso
Yep.
sauce.
Yes.
Is there a connection between the two that you'd like to talk about now before we go to the next photo?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of what I saw about your podcast is it's kind of like life is a gift, or things like that. So my philosophy has always been seize the day, carpe diem. Since I was probably a teenager or something like that.
Nice.
So I am very much about like, what's the most enjoyable thing to do right now.
Okay.
What's the funnest thing to do, and like for me that was like, let me get some queso quickly here in this airport, before my next flight, kind of thing. For the book, it's, this is all information that's really important to me, and that I've seen helps so many people. And obviously, one-on-one individual therapy is very helpful, etc. But you can't reach a lot of people at once, so as I kept encountering psychotherapists, EMDR trained, who really didn't know much about sexual health at all, despite the fact that all of us treat lots of sexual assault survivors and sexual abuse survivors like every day. That's most of our caseload.
Oh.
Yeah. I was kind of like, oh my God, like this is information that I love learning about and I love knowing about. I've been especially learning about it the last 4 or 5 years or so. So I would love to really disseminate it as widely as possible, so it's that same kind of urge to kind of embrace and act. I'm a very action-oriented person. So, I'm kind of like, what can I do now?
Yeah.
So.
I love it. And I'm looking at this photo and I love food. Like to me, the sensualness of eating this queso sauce, it's like a sensual experience, right? So I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah, we could definitely go there with that. Although I've never used it in any sexual activity because I think it'd be a little too sticky. But
right, no, of course, it's a self-love experience.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly what it is. Although I'm always like, I'd love to do some Costanza, from Seinfeld, where he's always like eating a sandwich on the side while he's having sex. I remember that. Like that seems like the best thing in the world. To take a bite of this chip with queso, and then go back to what you're doing.
Got it. So. With the crumbs, yes, all the way. Okay, well, do you want to move on to the next photo?
Sure.
Okay, great. So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So, if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.